Oh, went away again.
You didn't put the tape on the button.
You guys got gremlins.
Jeez. Good thing.
If anyone gets that reference.
Oh, I get it. Young
I get it.
Frankenstein. That's
Yep.
fabulous.
That's right.
The candle back. Okay, so roll call.
Hurry up before it goes.
I'm here.
Committeeman Hickey.
I'm here. Sometimes I wish I wasn't here, but I'm here.
Oh my goodness. Mr. Strackoff.
Here.
Mr. Travellini.
Here.
Mr. Odelius.
Present.
Mr. Leonard.
Here.
Mr. Gigavini is absent. Mr. Zupnik.
Present.
Ms. Orabana is absent. Mr. Walter.
Here.
Chairwoman Gutschall.
I'm here.
Adequate notice of this meeting. The Bedminster Township Land Use Board was filed with the Township Clerk, sent to the Burnersville News and the Courier News, and to all subscribers, and posted to the Township Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey, on January 12th, 2021.
Okay, now the flag salute. I
Pledge allegiance
Please.
Flag of the United States of America.
Republic.
And to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
one nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty.
liberty, and justice for all.
It's better than our last time.
Okay, so we have to make up for those 17 minutes we just lost, people.
Let's roll.
Okay, we have a letter that was sent to the Township Administrator, Judy Sullivan, on February 5th for the Town Committee to address the subcommittee's review of the escrow fees at the next regular Township meeting, which will be the 16th. We have no further action from this board to do at this time. We can start right into our public hearing for the land use plan amendment and housing element. And I believe that we're going to hear from Frank on this, if I'm correct.
Yes, that's
Thank you,
correct,
Madam.
Madam Chairman. And Frank, I'd like to swear you in for the record on this, okay? So Frank, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
We'll just confirm for the record that the board recognizes and accepts Frank Banish's qualifications as a professional planner. Please go ahead, Mr. Banish.
Thank you. Yes, what we're here tonight for is a public hearing on a master plan amendment, actually 2 amendments, one to the land use plan and one to the housing element. But these are all companion documents. The master plan and housing plan amendments relate to the same thing, which is the rezoning that's being discussed, proposed in the master plan and in the ORV-MU rezoning for that portion of the Bedminster 1 site that can be further developed along Burnt Mills Road. So as I look at these documents, I can say, because the board members have all participated in discussions on this matter in great detail before, I'll try to hit the highlights without going on a page turn here. The land use plan, which is the subject of this master plan hearing, along with the housing plan element, is being amended so that this new ORV-MU or ORV Office Research Village Mixed Use District can be added to the zone plan of Bedminster Township. As you'll recall, the township's housing element and fair share plan recited the requirements of a settlement agreement with the Fair Share Housing Center that allowed Bedminster to achieve third round certification, or as the court would call it, a compliance judgment and a judgment of repose. But it was provided we did one very specific thing. Even though it was acknowledged that Bedminster has 644 actual built affordable units and compared very favorably against how many units we needed to have, we nonetheless did not have family rental units. And so the settlement agreement required that Bedminster produce 28 family rental units. As the board members will remember, we have previously in the last year heard an application in Bedminster Village for an apartment complex, which is delivering 5 of those 28 units. So the ORV MU district is being designed to accommodate and accomplish provision of those other 23 units in a attractive multi-story mixed-use development format. This master plan amendment calls for that and requires that there would be a mandatory 15% set aside of affordable housing in a project of approximately 160 units in size. The amendment to the housing element, which refers to a specific portion of the housing element, so it's a surgical amendment, which is meeting the third round obligation requirements. And under section 2 there, regarding family units, it says 113 required, 644 provided, and then family rentals, 28 required, and 28 were to be provided. There were requirements about how those units would be constructed, and that the Bedminster was required either to rezone by this summer so that a developer would be able to build those units, or failing to do that, that we would provide for a 100% affordable development that would create those 28 units. The housing element, one of the things that housing elements do is they talk about site suitability to prove that sites that are proposed for affordable housing actually can accommodate the housing that's proposed. Here, this 100%, this inclusionary development, mixed use development meets those site suitability criteria, which are that it is approvable. And in this case, the site is free of steep slopes and has adequate development use, developable land for the use intended. The site is available because it has a clear title, not encumbered, and nothing precludes building affordable housing here. The site's developable under the COA requirements because it's within the sewer service area. It's actually already served by public water and sewer, and those are available and adequate capacity exists. And the site is suitable for this development in that it is adjacent to compatible land uses here on the south end of Pluckman Village, which is a combination of residential and commercial uses, and in a very walkable arrangement, well outfitted with sidewalks. And as well, the site has adequate access to appropriate access to streets, in that the direct access to Burnt Mill Road and the indirect access to Route 202, 206 give the site excellent access. So when it comes to the provisions of the master plan, both in the land use plan and in the housing element, these two amendments are really designed to assure that we meet the obligation that the town assumed under the settlement with Fair Share Housing Center. Part of putting this package together is the companion ordinance, and I believe the board has reviewed this ordinance on multiple occasions. But I'll just say for the record, the ordinance takes a portion of the Bedminster 1 site, the northerly portion adjoining Burnt Mills Road, and permits a new mixed-use development opportunity that can consist of multifamily housing units or apartments in mixed-use buildings that can also include offices and retail, as well as outdoor dining and gathering spaces. It permits all the uses that are permitted in the VN zone commercial district. So those retail or office uses referred to above can be any of the things already permitted in the same area at this time. It permits banks with drive-up access, office buildings, and research and engineering activities. So, and of course, the ordinance requires that as part of the construction of a mixed-use development that will include residential development, that at least 15% of the number of residential units will be affordable units, meeting all the requirements of UHAC and COA rules. And they will include a minimum of the 23 remaining units that need to be delivered in order for Bedminster to have fully satisfied its third round compliance judgment. So the ordinance certainly has lots more pages and lots more details, and it includes the very significant work that the applicant and the board went to hone the concept and to provide visual imagery about it that convey very clearly what's intended to happen at this location. I believe that the governing body may, at the time of introduction of the ordinance, have some additional information to add to it, but certainly the spirit of what the planning board is recommending is well described throughout the course of the ordinance. And then the final companion document is the master plan reexamination report. And this follows on the heel of a reexamination that was done May 10th, 2018. If you read the two side by side, you'll see that portions of them are either identical or very close or have been updated from 2018. But the thrust of this document as well is to make clear that the opportunity for this new mixed-use development in Pluckerman fulfills the obligations under the fair share settlement approved by Judge Tom Miller, October 16th, 2018. That's the short version. I'm happy to go into any additional detail people might like me to, but I got the feeling I'm trying to make up some of those 17 minutes. So.
Frank, I have a question. In reading the reexamination report, there was a phrase that caught my eye talking about 4 very low income units. And I hadn't heard anything about that prior to seeing that phrase.
Okay,
Is
part
there
of the
something special going on to accommodate that?
yes, but it's not something uniquely targeted to Bedminster. The requirement for 13% of all affordable units to be very low income, meaning less than 30% of median. The way the income stratification goes, the median income is the income that has as many people above it as below it. And the way we target low and moderate income housing is moderate income is 80% of median. Low income has always traditionally been 50% of median. Because the 50% of median still left the most needy people out, so to speak, the Fair Housing Act was amended to provide that at least 13% of all of those affordable units have to be affordable to that under 30% group. So that's a standard that's applying to all the municipalities. And it's just the math that you do if you take our 28 units times 13%.
Yeah, but are so some of the apartments being built differently because of that?
No, really, there should be no discernible distinction between, there will be differences between very upscale luxury units and very state-of-the-art, but not necessarily very upscale affordable units. But the very low income affordable units and the moderate income affordable units should all really be coming in at the same delivery appearance.
Oh, so they're just paying less rent.
Right. What we're doing is finding a way that those most in need still get to pay a rent they can afford. That's correct.
But, okay. The costs aren't reduced for those apartments, I guess. I mean,
The rents
the
are
same
pegged
as-
based on, the rents are pegged to a point where the resident is not supposed to pay 30%, more than 30% of their income on housing costs. So when it's a rental, you don't have principal, interest, mortgage amortization, you have the rent and the utilities. They are not supposed to pay more than 30% of whatever they earn in order to pay for that rent and utilities. So the developer in an inclusionary development is essentially subsidizing through those market rate units how these people get to have such low rent.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anyone else from the board have any questions?
Yeah, I just have, it's Larry. I have a question on, Frank, on page 1.
Which document, Larry?
That's on the land use plan amendment.
Okay, I'm with you.
Page 1, 1, 2, third paragraph. The
Yes,
ORV portion of the site has been determined to be an appropriate location for the
right.
mixed use and multifamily housing development. Now, here's my comment. With a minimum mandatory 15% set aside for affordable family rental units. But at the same time, we're also not doing a minimum mandatory 15% set aside, but also a minimum mandatory of the 23 units. So should it reflect both the 15% and the minimum mandatory 23 units, no matter what?
Yes, it should, Larry.
So if the developer decided to only build 100 units, there's still an obligation to provide 23 affordables.
So it would say with a minimum mandatory set aside, 15% set aside for affordable family rental units, provided at least 23 units are delivered. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments?
No, not hearing any from anyone. I think this would be a time we open it up to the public. Is there anyone, Janine, that you see from the public?
We have Noah, Todd, Mark, Jake from the paper, Ron Kennedy. It's all people that are a part of the application.
Okay,
So if any of the public has comments to make,
Absolutely, they
then the
certainly
process
can.
is go on down to the bottom of the screen. We have no phone calls, so we don't have to do the *9.
Yep.
And raise hand.
raise hands so that we can see that you want to speak.
Or if your
And-
video is on, raise your hand, either way.
Right, so if you're not on video, you can do the electronic media version of raise hand.
So I just want to make myself clear about something, Frank. The way you described it in your report, by approving these changes to the land use plan and modifying the ordinance accordingly, we eliminate the need to have to change the master plan this summer, which we would have otherwise been required to do for not satisfying our round 3 obligations, correct?
That's correct.
And to be clear, it's not because, we are been working so carefully with KRE to specifically avoid that necessity. Not because we necessarily feel that their project, we may differ on the board level here about whether we feel this project has so much merit that we would be inclined to award any and all of the variances that they would need to, that we would need to vote on in order to approve a project such as this. So we're not making an evaluation of the merit of this, which isn't even an application yet, right? We're not making any judgments about the merit of the application, whether it's got, negative impacts or positive impacts on the zone plan or anything like that. This is allowing us to meet our requirements as set the 28 units that we were required to put in place by this summer, rather than change our master plan.
We are changing our master plan now to accomplish that, right?
To accomplish that, but there's no,
Right.
so we don't have to do anything more this summer.
Once we do this, we will have satisfied the requirements for our proposed that goes to July 2025. So we won't
Whether
be
it
talking
whether
about
it gets built or not, is that correct?
If we zone for it, that was the obligation we had, that would have been sufficient. Yes,
We'll just sit around and wait for them to sock it to us in, phase 4.
well, we shouldn't underestimate the fact, I think you can expect if things don't change radically, that I pointed out a little earlier in the document that we had, this massive number of units more than we needed, even though we didn't have the family rentals. I think we'll find ourselves again, like Judge Serpentelli said, probably having enough units to get us halfway through this century, except meeting the micro requirement for the family rentals. So that's the thing we're going to have to think about in 5 years. And hopefully we'll talk about it before the 5 years, so we don't at the last minute have to come up with something.
Okay,
But for now, this will satisfy all of our obligations. Thank you, Richard.
great, thank you.
Any further from the board? So that they all understand it and are ready to vote on it. Okay, not hearing anything. Tom, where do you want to go from here?
So, Madam Chairman, the public hearing is now over on this matter. And the only thing that technically required a public hearing was the master plan amendment. But I'd like to have the board consider two motions. First, I'll do the motion on the master plan amendment, then the motion on the reexamination report, the master plan reexamination report. When you adopt the master plan reexamination report, you will be effectively and explicitly recommending the ORVMU ordinance to the Township Committee for them to consider. And if they were to introduce it as an ordinance, that's the law. This is not a law yet. The Township Committee would refer it back to you. Then you do the referral report where you find it consistent or at least not inconsistent with the master plan. And then if the committee is ready, they then have a public hearing and they adopt it. And then it becomes law on the effective date of that ordinance. So the first motion is a motion by the planning board to adopt the master plan amendment as discussed this evening with the verbatim change described by the mayor and Frank Banish, which was that on page 1, third paragraph, the addition of the phrase at the end of the first sentence will say, and provided at least 23 affordable family rental units shall be delivered, period. Is there such a motion?
So move.
Who made the motion?
Rich did, and Scott is seconding.
Thank you, gentlemen, and a roll call, Janine.
Mayor Jacobs,
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey,
Aye.
Mr. Strakoff,
Aye.
Mr. Travellini,
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Mr. Meany is absent, Mr. Zupnik,
Aye.
Mr. Urbana is absent, Mr. Walter,
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall.
Aye. Motion is passed.
Very good. Now, the second motion, and is all that we need to do tonight now, is the motion to approve the master plan reexamination report as prepared by Mr. Banish and explained this evening, which attaches to it the recommended ordinance relating to the ORVMU zone district for the Township Committee to consider. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Scott on the motion, Jeff on the second, I think.
Yep.
And a roll call, please.
Mayor Jacobs,
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey,
Aye.
Mr. Strakoff,
Aye.
Mr. Travellini,
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Mr. Meany is absent, Mr. Zupnik,
Aye.
Ms. Urbana is absent, Mr. Walter,
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall.
Aye. Motion is passed.
Okay, Madam Chairman, both of the actions required for tonight have been completed. Janine, you will now forward these to the Township Committee for their consideration by a short memo. And you and I will work on the notices of the adoption of the master plan amendment. And we are finished for this evening if the board is finished.
Okay, we just have a few other announcements. We have the Lamington Farm, which is postponed indefinitely, not rescheduled. We have 20 Route 206, which will be at our next meeting, which will be March 4th. And we have our carryover for B&D Associates, which will be March 11th. And I believe we now want to talk about having a special meeting. Is that correct? Or-
That's correct, Madam Chairman. If the board would consider it, it would be convenient to have a meeting next Thursday or the if it was good for the board to just do what might be the consistency review report, because the township committee may introduce this ordinance on next Tuesday, the 16th of February. And then they refer it back to you. It sounds like ping pong, but that's what the statute requires. And you would have a meeting after their introduction. And then if you were to find it to be consistent, or at least not inconsistent with the master plan, which you better, because you just adopted the master plan amendment that recommended it, you would then be done your part of it, and the committee could proceed to public hearing and second reading at a subsequent meeting, probably in March. So the question is, do we have a quorum for next Thursday? And Frank and I are available, I know.
Yeah, we're proposing the
need a quorum.
18th, which is next Thursday.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm
I'm
good.
available.
I'm
I would
good.
assume it should be a very brief meeting.
Okay.
Okay, do we have quorum? Did I hear?
I'm available. Colin?
2,
Yep.
3, Scott is 4, Nick is 5, Jeff is 6. Rich said
Right.
7, Tim?
I believe so.
8. Okay, we have quorum. Okay, then
Great, so
for the 18th.
We'll schedule, and if there's a problem with the introduction of the ordinance on the 16th, we'll let everyone know, and
We'll cancel.
we'll cancel it. But
Right.
with the referral of the master plan reexamination report and the proposed ordinance, we should be able to get that on for the next TC meeting for Tuesday, the 16th, with the referral back to the land use board for the 18th, which would then tee up the hearing on the order for the subsequent township committee meeting. So that works out.
Which,
one more thing I want to remind Paul, I think he knows, but because it's such short notice, Paul, we better go over this, that would you please prepare a amendment to the zone map that's referred to in the ordinance that changes the Bed 1 properties, which I think are ORV and OR, to ORVMU on the physical map. We are changing it in words, but it's good to do it and have that map available for the township committee if possible. Certainly for,
Okay, I'll have to, the zoning map I prepared is actually fairly behind. Let me work with Frank on that. I'll talk to him offline and we'll figure out how to get that done.
okay. Thanks.
okay, I'll open it up
Thank
to
you,
the,
everybody.
just open it up to the board if anybody has anything further they'd like to say. Okay, I guess we
Well,
need,
Madam, because we have to, we should open to the public for matters not on the agenda. This was on the agenda. We opened for this. So technically, under the Open Public Meetings Act, we should open again, even though I don't think there's anybody. But
yeah, we will open it again. I don't believe there's anybody present, but we will. If there's anything anyone would like to talk about other than what's on the agenda.
Raise your hand, go to the
Raise your hand.
reactions. There is no one doing anything.
No one's doing anything. Okay. Is that simple?
I guess we'll see y'all next Thursday.
We will see you next Thursday, and we need
Deal.
to adjourn.
thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. Good night, everybody.
Great night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Safe home, Rich.
All right. Take care, guys. Good night.